Hello beautiful friends. Today I have another project to share with you for the Cut to You design team. I'm using the Daffodil Corners cut file, which was a new release for March. And when the design team received all of the March cut files from Gwen, I was so taken by this one that I had my layout completed within, I think, about 2.5 hours of receiving the cut file. So that's, I think, a record, definitely a record for me. I've just shown you, I have tried to use a slightly different color scheme here. I kind of wanted to push myself a little bit, and the cut file itself was cut from just a craft cardstock. And then I'm using the Crepe Paper Fresh Bouquet collection, but I've gone for a more autumnal feeling color scheme, which is not something that I would ordinarily gravitate towards, but I love the photo that I'm scrapping, which is of my daughter and my son having a little moment on the lawn at the park across the road from us, and it just had such a lovely warm and cozy feel to it that I wanted to really reinforce that feeling with the color scheme of the products that I chose to use. So what you've watched me doing here, I already had the idea in my head that I wanted to create a vertical layer, and to reinforce that design element, I have added just a couple of strips of paper to either side of my layout, and then I have run some stitching down the side of those with my sewing machine. And then I'm just showing you there how I've grabbed 3 different pattern papers. These were from the 6x8 paper pad, and I've also run some stitching around the edge of each of those. And then I'm just going to layer these up behind each other, just a really simple photo mat layer. They're not offset, they're all centered, and I'm just using my fingernails there to lightly rough up and lift the edges of each of those paper layers, just to give some added texture. Now, one of the ways that I made this layout come together, or that I helped this layout come together quite quickly, is that I used my Silhouette Studio software and my Cameo to cut out all of the backing pieces for this cut file. Now, I am planning on recording a little tutorial for you. If this is not something that you have done, or perhaps you're a little bit like me and you have done this, you have used your Silhouette to cut the backing pieces before, but for simpler designs. So sometimes it can be hard, particularly when you're using more than one pattern paper. It can be hard to back these more intricate files, but I do have a plan to create a little tutorial for you to show you how I actually achieve that in the Silhouette Studio software. So if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button now, and then you can see when I upload that tutorial to my channel. While I've been chattering away about that, you've been watching me getting ready to build the center focal piece for my layout. So I had already added some foam to the back of my cut file, and now I've added some foam to the back of my photo. And because I knew that I wanted this to be quite centered and central, I thought the easiest way to make sure that I had everything in the position where I wanted it would be to adhere the cut file to the photo mats before I adhere it down to my background. So essentially I'm building the main part of my layout before I adhere everything down, and there is another specific reason why I've decided to do it that way, which you are going to see coming up very shortly. So I picked this chipboard title that says Love, which was from the chipboard sheet in the Fresh Bouquet collection from Crepe Paper, but it was a little bit too thick and it was going to add too much dimension, too much bulk to my layout. So I've just torn a few of the layers from the back, and then I'm using my wet adhesive to stick that down over the bottom of my photo and the layers behind it. And this is one other reason why I didn't want to stick anything down, is because I have this stamp set which is from Uniquely Creative, and it's all these beautiful foliage pieces. It does have a coordinating die, which I also have, but I wanted to create some I wanted to add some stamping to my background using the foliage. So I've just placed that large cluster, the cut file and the photo, down on the center of my page, and then I'm lifting off the sides to stamp those foliage stamps down so that they're peeking out from behind the cut file. I'm using a Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just having a look here in my stack. I believe it's Tattered Rose that I'm using here, which is a really beautiful soft pink that coordinates quite well with the soft pink that I have in some of my patterned papers. And I'm just making sure that I'm using a couple of different foliage stamps. Apologies for the back of my head there. And I'm scattering them around, and just, you can see, hopefully you can see there that I've got them so that they're just peeking out from underneath. And I've added the main ones there, but I will be coming back in a little bit later and adding some more. And then for a little bit of extra interest to my background, I'm also going to add some gold splatters, and this is using the Lindy's Stamp Gang Magicals. I believe this is Glitz Gold or Glitzy Gold, something like that. I think it's a fairly new release, but it's a beautiful, shimmery, shiny gold. And I've just mixed some of that up. I've kept it quite pigmented because it is going to be used for splatters, not for a watercolor background. And so I wanted to have as much of that pigment and that shimmer in there as I possibly could. And I'm just tapping my paintbrush to get some really nice splatters around the page. Okay, so off camera I adhered the photo and the cut file to my page. And the only reason that I did it off camera is the fact that I keep having my head popping in over the top, and I knew that I wanted to get over the top of this to make sure that it was centered, so I did that off camera. It was pretty simple. I just added some wet adhesive to the back of the foam behind the photo and then peeled the backing off the foam on the cut file. And then I have added just a really short bit of journaling to the bottom there, centered. I made sure when I put my cluster down that I was leaving just a little bit of room at the bottom of the page to tuck that little bit of journaling in. And now I am doing some embellishing. And for my embellishments, I have already been through the different bits and pieces that I have from this collection, and I pulled out a selection of stickers and chipboard pieces, stickers and die cut ephemera, and there is some chipboarders there as well. And I have also fussy cut some gold foil florals, which is on one of the papers in the 6x8 paper stack. So I'm using some frames cut in half and some tags cut in half just to build the base of my little embellishment clusters here to the top left and the bottom right. I really love using frames and tags to build my embellishment layers at the moment. I find I don't tend to use them as frames or as tags, but I definitely use them when I am embellishing, and for me that's a really good use of them, and it helps to give my embellishment clusters something to ground them and a base for them to sit on. So I have tucked one of those little gold foil florals that I fussy cut out to the bottom right of the photo. I've also added a little word strip underneath the word love that says documented, and that's going to be my title, Love Documented. I don't put the comma in between the two, but if you were reading it aloud, the comma would be there when you're saying it, and that's fine for me. I have also added a little bow to the bottom right cluster, and you did see me there adding just a little bit of dimensional foam behind the loops of the bow and the tails of the bow, and that's just to help give that bow a little bit more added dimension to help it feel like it's not sitting flat on the page. Of course, if you add dimension, it's not sitting flat on the page. I hope you know what I'm trying to say there. I've used that beautiful little chipboard butterfly, and I did peel over half of the backing from that because it was really, really bulky, and I have bent it in half and added some foam to the wings just to again help give that butterfly a little bit of movement. I pulled up the word strip that I had originally stuck down at the top there because it wasn't in the right position to build my embellishments around, so I pulled that up, and now I'm going to come back in and add a little bit more adhesive and pop that back in there, and that one just says picture perfect because of course it is just such a beautiful photo of my beautiful children. And then I think we are just about coming to the end of the embellishing, and what I'm going to come back in with now is I'm going to grab that stamp set again, and I'm just picking up some of the smaller little pieces. So there are a couple of, you can see here, it's a really tiny little foliage piece, and there are also some stamps with just a few little dots, which I guess could be berries. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to fill in all the spaces around that cut file and tie in the journaling just using those little stamps. And that will be it for this layout. Of course, there are some close-up photos coming at the end. And if you are new to my channel, I would love for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can join me for all of my upcoming videos. If you've enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment. It really does help me to grow and build my channel. And if you are a long-time viewer, as always, thank you so much for your support. It really means so much to me. So I will leave it there and say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.